Hello, the BookTube. My name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty. I've got no rhythm. Today I'm going to do the Stan with Trans Kids tag that was originated by Leo Bancroft, and I was alerted to it by Brian at Bookish, so thank you, Brian. I haven't been tagged, but I decided I wanted to do this tag. I want to flag up the level of ignorance that you can expect to get in this video is such that when I inevitably misspeak or just say something offensive or get things asked backwards, please come at me in the comments and set me right, because this is an area I just don't feel super confident in talking about. But I felt like I wanted to do the tag. I think representation is important, and so I've decided to do it. So unless the overwhelming response is that you've misjudged this so badly you need to take this video down, this is an encouragement for everyone. The first question is to tag other people. I think do it because it's it may be a good thing to do. One second. So part of my hesitation in doing this is because, on the one hand, I don't care what anybody, any author or any character has in their underwear. It's of zero importance to me. But I'm coming to learn that part of that makes me sound like the crazy racist uncle from the 70s saying, I don't even see color. It's not necessarily about me, and that people who have been marginalized and unseen, and therefore been allowed to only exist on the periphery because no one wants to look at them and see them and talk about them in the ways that they are asking to be seen and be talked about. So if somebody decides not to ever talk about their identity, then there's no reason for me to talk about it. But I have a feeling that the sort of my natural British reticence, saying, well, listen, it's none of my business. I don't even know who's trans and who isn't. That's the sort of that maybe have some place, but there are instances now where we're seeing people who have gone through identity struggles, who are asserting their identity, and that want to be seen and are happy to be seen, and that's why I want to stand with those people and not sort of say, well, I'm none of my business. I don't want to talk about it. So that is, I think, what's driven me to do this. So question one is tag people, and I tag anyone who stands with trans kids. 2, tell us about some books on your TBR pile featuring a trans non-binary character or non-fiction about trans non-binary stuff. On my TBR pile, I'm not all entirely sure. I picked 3 books that I'm not saying I have no idea what's going on, but I don't really know what the characters are like in it. So the 3 books I picked, one which I'm going to get to, I think, very soon. This is coming up on my TBR quite soon, is Detransition Baby by Tori Peters, which I picked up in paperback, and I think I'm going to get to this in the next couple of weeks. Then I've got the complete Gary Lutz. Gary Lutz, I believe, has transitioned. These are flash fiction short stories, and this is complete everything up to 2 or 3 years ago, and I think she is now publishing under Gary with an I, Lutz, and has transitioned. So that's looking forward to that. And then my second, Quaker Maisie, which I picked up for $1 in Book Off in New York. Freshwater, I read theodogoji, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And this is coming up, and I'll get to this. It's a relatively short novel, should be. And everyone loved Freshwater, and I just skipped it and went to the next one. But looking forward to that. 3, recommend a favorite book, show, movie featuring a trans non-binary character. So I started thinking, well, I don't even know if I've ever read or seen anything, and then slowly things began to surface. So the first one I'm going to give a shout out, which is a book and a movie, but I don't have the book here. I read it over 30 years ago. The World According to Garp, and there's a character called Roberta Muldoon in the movie, played by John Lithgow. Who is a trans woman living in a women's commune run by Garp's mother. That was a trans, a fabulous former, I believe, NFL football player, and now a trans woman, and it's a great movie and a fantastic book if you've never read The World According to Garp, and you only sort of read new releases and do very little backlist. Stop, take the time, read Garp. I think it's a fantastic work of 20th century literature. I've got three, and I've now just got a bunch of books. First three, I didn't love all of them, but I'm mentioning them because they're worth mentioning. So I've already spoken about Discomfort of Evening by Marika Lucas Reinfeld. They are a non-binary author, I believe, so that may not even be appropriate for this tag. This is what I mean. Sorry, that's that. Then I want to talk about the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin, which this is the first of a trilogy. This is the Broken Earth trilogy. I picked these up super cheap. Everyone was talking about them. They won, I think, each of the three books in the trilogy won the Hugo Award for best novel or whatever. And I read them. I read all three and really struggled. I don't read a lot of science fiction. I don't read fantasy or science fiction very much, even though when I was young, that when you're a Star Wars fan and Superman the movie comes out and you think you're all about Lord of the Rings, and that was I played Dungeons and Dragons, so I believed I was of that world, and then as I became a sort of independent reader later on, I just didn't really dip my foot into it too much. So I picked these up with high expectations because they all won awards, and specifically one of the sources of praise for this was how diverse the characters are. And this is what I want to say about this. So there is a character who is openly bisexual, and there is also a trans character that's revealed, and it's very easily woven into the plot. It's not a major plot point. There is a reveal where you didn't realize that you had no way of knowing the character was trans. But here's my thing about building a fantasy world and having a diverse set of characters. If in your fantasy world, which you're creating wholly from ex nihilo, and you can do whatever you want, and there's various types of magic and different types of characters have different types of powers. If in this world, which you are free to create any way you like, there is one bisexual character and one trans character, I'm not sure that fully qualifies as diverse. Now, compared to books that have none of that, then I get it. But to me, in no way am I accusing Jemisin of tokenism, but there was a little bit of box ticking. But that's the fifth season. Very, very highly praised. Didn't love the trilogy. Another one, All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders, who I believe is a trans, and this was cross between. This was like science fiction and fantasy. So some of the people are magic users, and some of the people are, I can't remember, and it's how they interact with each other. And I was really looking forward to this. Had a lot of praise, didn't love it. Anyway, so those are as examples of books with diverse and trans characters that I didn't love. But here are some books which had a huge impression upon me. Conundrum by Jan Morris, a trans journalist, as a young man, ran up Everest and was reporting on the summiting of Everest back in 1952, wasn't it? About the time when Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing made it to the top, and running up and down and filing reports. And she talks about the physical aspect of that and what her body felt like in those days, but also talks about so there's a joy and a sense of physicality that she remembers about that time, and then talks about transitioning and never feeling quite right in her body. And Jan Morris, very much loved travel writer and journalist for many, many years. I think she only died last couple of years. And this is Conundrum, is the mystery and of her life and working out how she fits in to this very privileged childhood and boarding school and a very male environment when she becomes a journalist for the first time and on Everest and come back and the transition and the sense of self and the discovery along the way. It's just a beautiful, very simple, light work, but highly recommend Conundrum by Jan Morris. A key text for me, one that I'm sure many of you have read, is The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. about her relationship with the artist Harry Dodge and their marriage to Harry Dodge and their struggle to have a child together. Just a book that confused me because I didn't understand who was what and where, because it's written in such a gentle and accepting and matter-of-fact way, and yet began to inform my sense of gender identity. There's a lot of talk of Judith Butler here, who I haven't read, but I probably should. I know Judith Butler's not a big fan of Israel, and this kind of puts me off a little bit. Anyway, nothing to do with the Argonauts or Maggie Nelson. Just a very open and honest work that accepts even an ignorant reader like me to come in and say, well, this is what it is, this is my life, this is what I feel about this is what this means to this, and just opening a world up, a generosity that I found embracing and valuable to me, rather than okay, you guys really need to understand what's going on over here. It's not didactic in any way, and just a fantastic piece of writing. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson, highly recommended. An old favourite I read again 30 years ago. This is the first in the Tales of the City, featuring, of course, the unbelievable and wonderful Mrs. Madrigal, Anna Madrigal, and all the other characters in her boarding house in Barbary Lane in San Francisco in the 70s. And I read the first 6. I haven't read the one. Morpin wrote, I think, 2 or 3 more in the last 5 or 10 years or so. I stopped reading them after the original first 6 because it was heartbreaking by the end, and I'm not sure I want to come back and read about Mouse as a older man and his trials and tribulations later on in life. But just the first 6 and my heart was there. I read them with a bunch of friends. We were all reading them and sharing them around at the same time. And then the original TV series came out, and we all gathered and watched that together. So it was a journey. It was something we did as a peer group, and formative work for me. And that's the first Tales of the City by Armistead Maupin. Then a book I read last year, Death of Theodogoji. So this is the first of Kweke Emezi, and I've got fresh water to go. Really tremendous, loving, again, a matter-of-fact look. And this is, I talk about the relationship that the generation below mine have to queerness is so open and loving and honest, in a way that my generation has had to learn. I don't think we had this loving relationship to the queerness of others. I think it's something I have come to understand, that empathy is not finite, and therefore it can be extended to any and all, and must be extended always to the most vulnerable. And this is the peer group of Vivekoji, the title character here, are so full of matter-of-fact love, and their attitude towards queerness is so wonderfully non-judgmental, and it's not even a question of being judged. This is and transcend. So friendship and love and none of those things should be affected in any way by the identity of one's friends. As I say, for me, this has been a learning over 20 years, as ignorant and horrible as that sounds. There were no examples of this for me growing up in my life, and so I loved encountering this generation for whom everything is accepted and wonderful. The Death of Theodogoji by Kweke Emezi. A couple of comic books worth talking about. I don't have my copy of Lumberjanes here, but there is, I believe, Joe, one of the Lumberjanes. What's the name of the author? Stevenson? No, is it Noel Stevenson? Is Joe, one of the characters in the group, I believe, is a trans Girl Guide or Girl Scout or whatever Lumberjanes are. Also worth mentioning is Wanda and this is from Sam Mann and Neil Gaiman. This is the volume 5 or 6 is A Game of You. There is a trans character, and this is the early 90s, and Wanda sadly is killed not in a woman in the fridge kind of way, but at the end of this story, her family bury her, and against her wishes bury her under her the name she was born with, and her friend Barbie goes to the funeral, and after all the family have left, paints over with a bright pink lipstick, paints Wanda's name over the name on the gravestone, and very moving and wonderful. I enjoyed that very much. That's Sandman. This is A Game of You. That volume, I think it's volume 5 or 6 in the 10-volume Sandman series, and a lot of books. One I really want to talk about because I picked this up a couple of years ago and I just love it, and I read it again just before I was preparing for this, and I love this. This is a picture book, Julian is a Mermaid, by Jessica Love. And I remember when this came out, it piqued my interest. And I don't buy a lot of children's picture books, and my children are too old, and they wouldn't care for me to sit and read them picture stories anymore. But I decided that what I'd read about this book and what I heard about it was enough to make me want to pick it up. It's a very short, 30 pages, 25 pages, whatever the thing is. It's a story about Julian, who loves mermaids and is with his nana on a train, and he sees a bunch of beautiful mermaids. This is Julian looking at them with his nana on the bus, looking at the mermaids, and he tells his nana that he wants to be a mermaid, or that he is a mermaid, rather. And then there's pictures of him imagining and wondering what it would be like to dress and do his hair and have makeup like these incredible mermaids that he's seen on the train. And he goes home, and his nana says she's going in the shower. I'm going to spoil the whole book for you, but it doesn't spoil anything. And she says, I'm going to take a bath. Be good, Julian. And while she is in the bath, he has an idea. And he takes off his clothes, and he dresses up, and he takes the flowers, and he builds himself a headdress, and he takes the net curtains, and he builds himself a train and becomes a mermaid. And his nana comes out of the bath and sees him dressed as a mermaid. And I won't spoil it anymore for you, but it's wonderful. And might make you cry, and that's not a bad thing. That is Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love. Okay, that's quite enough of those books and things. Everyone has their own journey, and no one demographic is a monolith. Recommend a book with a journey, however you define that. I went up and down there. Here's a book with a journey. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I know a lot of people don't read or don't want to talk about Huckleberry Finn. I know a lot of people don't read Mark Twain. He's very rarely mentioned among classics. People read the classics, and I've read a bunch of Mark Twain's books, both fiction and some of his non-fiction, not exhaustively, and I haven't read many of his short stories. But if you haven't read Huckleberry Finn, and if you don't want to read Huckleberry Finn because of things that you know about the book and words that it uses that were I'm not going to defend Huckleberry Finn. No, it doesn't need me to defend it or not. This is a book with a journey. Huckleberry Finn and Jim go down the Mississippi on a boat. It's fantastic. If you want to read it, you should. 6. Where? Oh no, sorry. Which is it? Oh yeah. Oh, I don't think I missed this one. No, 5. None of us knows everything, even about our own identities, especially since we're not a monolith and each have our own journey. What is a book that taught you something either about yourself or the world around you? I don't think I picked something for this. I'm sorry. Every book that I read probably teaches me something, some more than others. I'm sorry. I didn't. Sorry. 6. When things are hard in the world or our lives, sometimes there are things we can do to help center and refocus ourselves, to bring joy, to keep us going, to keep living, resisting, being our authentically amazing selves. What are things you do to center yourself or find joy? I read books. Simple, I guess. I sometimes sit and listen to my kids talk to each other. That's something simple I do to center myself and feel joy. I look at old pictures sometimes, like on Facebook, or go through my phone, look at things that I captured of my family, mostly. 7. What is your walk-on music or your feel at home in your body music? I pretty much feel at home in my body, but I like the idea of walk-on music. So I thought of maybe Portions for Foxes by Rilo Kiley. I love that. It's sort of driving guitar and I'd walk onto that. It's a great song. Or maybe Just Like Heaven by The Cure. Maybe I'll link to if I remember. I'll put links to their music videos for both those songs. But anything, I'll walk onto anything. I'm a sucker for a good walk-on song. Finding mentors, people of wisdom, or heroes that can be another way to help us navigate life. Who are some of your mentors? Can you share something they taught you or inspired you to learn more about? I used to think I was the smartest person who ever lived. And one of the great discoveries of my life is smarter than my parents, for sure. I was so much more evolved and so much better than them on every level. And one of the great discoveries of my life has been how untrue everything I thought I knew about myself when I was 14 was. And so I've learned from every member of my family, from my parents, who were amazing, my late father, Oliver Sholem, and my mother, who is wonderful, my children, who, I thought I was going to be better than my parents. I certainly thought I was going to be better than my kids. No, I'm pretty much down at the bottom in terms of everything to do with understanding the world and being a positive contribution to the world. And so all of them inspire me, and my friends as well. I'm very blessed that any of them are still talking to me, and they inspire me and guide me as well, because they're smart. 9. Who are some out trans non-binary booktubers, Instagrammers, authors, actors, etc. who you'd like to shout out? Please point them out to me. So I didn't know about Leo Bancroft until Brian mentioned him. A person that I have been following on BookTube for a while and has been, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, I believe has been transitioning while I've been watching them, and that is a channel called Books and Bow, which talks a lot about manga, a lot about translated fiction. I think they've lived in Japan. I think they're going back to live in Japan, and it's just been super fascinating seeing someone turning on a camera and talking about decisions and thoughts and changes, and I think the word brave is overused, and maybe it shouldn't be considered brave, but there is a level of honesty and self-awareness and willing to express one's identity and sense of self, not in order to say, oh, look at me, look how brave I am, but there's a very clear understanding and awareness, as I say, that my generation have had, that actually doing this, it's not just being brave for yourself, it is a representation that others who are struggling with identity can see, this is what's possible. And that, I think, is super valuable. So I have very few books that Books and Bow talk about that interest me or that we agree on. I've had some great interactions with them in comments, but it's not exactly in my lane. But that sense of making a contribution and being a beacon to others that may get even more value out of this from on levels that I can't possibly imagine, I think is something impressive. I'll leave a link to their channel as well. And that's it. What are some organisations you'd like to shout out for supporting trans kids? This is where I need your help. Brian mentioned an organisation, and I'd love people to point me in the direction of more. And that's it. Well, God, 24. I can't see this is any use to anybody, but I stand with trans kids. Enjoy this tag. Take care. Bye.